For over 10,000 cycles, the Threxian conglomerate had considered itself the apex of galactic civilization. Every species under its boot, or allied jurisdiction, as the PR drones called it, was either harvested, civilized, or slowly bureaucratized into extinction. Its fleets spanned 6 sectors. Its databanks mapped 90% of known habitable worlds, and its military doctrine was etched in diamond tablets and arrogance. Then someone asked, "What's this blue one?" A low-ranking analyst from Sector Cartography pinged the system-flagged Sol 3, otherwise known as Earth, during a routine data integrity sweep. The report, auto-generated, declared Earth non-strategic, culturally erratic, and emotionally radioactive. In simpler terms, loud, unstable, and not worth the paperwork. So naturally, they sent Commodore Velgrin. Velgrin, scion of fleet nobility, veteran of the Carthes cleansing, hero of the Three Moons Siege, and wearer of no fewer than 5 ceremonial antennae clips, each one marking a genocidal victory. He expected campaign. He got recon babysitting. "It's a damn nature preserve," Velgrin muttered, pacing the bridge of his flagship, the Obedience, while Earth rotated quietly below. Mammals squeal. They build huts. They throw rocks at metal birds. Why am I here? His tactical officer, a 4-eyed squid being named Teleth, blinked nervously. "Sir, reports suggest they've developed rudimentary spaceflight." Velgrin scoffed. "So did the Argothians. We turned their ships into furniture. The plan was simple. Drop a scout team, 6 elite specialists in cloaking, biosampling, and atmospheric adaptation, into a forested region of minimal technological interference. The data cube called it Montana. Trees, bears, and something called ranchers. Send them down," Velgrin said, bored, waving his talons dismissively. "Back by sundown. I want a sample of their air, water, and whatever passes for intelligence." The dropship, sleek and cloaked, descended silently into the atmosphere. It landed in a clearing next to an abandoned barn. Birds scattered. A deer blinked once and vanished. The ship's landing gear hissed softly. 6 Threxians stepped onto Earth. That was the last time anyone saw them. No pings. No distress calls. No telemetry. Nothing. 3 hours passed. Velgrin tapped his claw on the command console. "Status?" Teleth looked like he was trying to vanish into his own exosuit. "Sir, we've lost contact." "You lost contact with 6 professionals equipped with adaptive bioarmor and neural dampeners on a planet where the apex predator is technically a shaved monkey?" "Yes, sir." Velgrin's mandibles twitched. "Launch the observation drone." The drone zipped into low orbit, scanning the landing zone. It found the dropship, or rather, parts of it. The ship had been dismantled. Not blown up. Not melted. Taken apart. With tools. With intent. But that wasn't the worst part. The area around the wreck had been turned into a perimeter. Motion sensors. Auto turrets. Hand-carved barriers made from local timber fused with Threxian alloy. Someone had built a small, highly effective kill zone in under a day. From scraps. Teleth's voice quivered. "Sir, we're detecting signs of human life. Armed. Wearing a mix of local fabric and repurposed Threxian field armor." Velgrin narrowed all 4 of his eyes. "Play any transmissions." A crackle of static filled the bridge. Then a voice, male calm, and speaking in Galactic Standard Threxian, cut through. "We know what you're looking for. We've been waiting." Silence. Then another voice, female this time, lower, colder. "You shouldn't have come here." Velgrin stood frozen, the chill of genuine fear crawling up his thorax. "Trace it." The crew scrambled. Coordinates locked. Same area. Same forest. But now the trees were burned, the soil was scorched, and there was movement, methodical, tactical movement, inside the perimeter. "Sir," Teleth said softly, "they built a forward base. Out of our ship." Velgrin blinked. "In under 1 Earth rotation? They're adaptable." "No one's that adaptable," Velgrin snapped. But even as he said it, something deep in his evolutionary memory, something ancient and primal, twitched in protest. Earth wasn't reacting with confusion. It wasn't scrambling. It was responding. Prep a retrieval team, Velgren barked. 10 of our best. Full stealth armor. Neural cloaks. Plasma rifles. This time we going fast, and only 2 came back. One was missing a leg, whispering they smiled over and over. The other refused to remove his helmet. He stared at walls like they might lunge. The internal footage showed what had happened. The humans didn't panic. They didn't scream. They moved like predators. They flanked the Threxians, used their own thermal vision against them. One soldier even hacked a neural dampener mid-fight and used it as a short-range EMP. Velgren watched, silent, and then came the final transmission, unsolicited. A human, in full scavenged armor, stood in front of the Threxian scout's wreckage. He held a Dominion plasma rifle casually over his shoulder. Earth's been training for this since your ancestors crawled out of slime. He smiled. You want war? Great. Just remember, we do this for fun. The feed cut. Velgren didn't speak for a long time. Then, finally, began a full fleet requisition. Sir? He turned, eyes cold. We're not facing a planet. We're facing an ecosystem of lunatics. A petting zoo full of apex predators with a taste for vengeance. And they just declared recreational war. He paused, then added, and I think they're enjoying it. Commodore Velgren wasn't laughing anymore. After the massacre of his retrieval team and the chilling human transmission that followed, he'd stopped making jokes about primitive bipeds and grunting meat apes. The briefing room aboard the Obedience, usually a place for strategic lectures and ceremonial preening, now held something new. Silence. No one dared interrupt as Velgren stared at the last freeze frame from the human's video. A smiling soldier, casually holding a plasma rifle as if it were a fishing rod. Behind him, an Earth-built perimeter of wood, scrap metal, and what appeared to be Threxian spinal plates. The soldier had said they do this for fun. That line was still echoing in Velgren's skull. Prep a full security detachment, he finally growled. I want eyes on that site, full thermal scan, and call in the Spearborn. Tellith paled. Impressive for a creature whose blood was blue mercury. The Spearborn, sir? Yes, Velgren said coldly. 10 of our best. Infiltration, close-quarters suppression, 0 empathy. Bring them in from the vanquished front. A pause. Sir, that squad seen 82 engagements in hostile biomes. They broke the Zarn Rebellion in a week. Then they might last 2 days on Earth. 2 days later, they lasted 7 hours. The Spearborn were dropped under full cloaking protocols at nightfall, with kinetic silencers and neural dampeners set to maximum. They moved as shadows. Ghosts. Every one of them had metals carved into their chitin. 6 hours in, the live feed went strange. The soldiers began reporting movement, shapes flickering through the forest. Not human forms. Not exactly. One described it as an upright animal in leaves. Another claimed the forest itself whispered coordinates. And then the screaming started. Not the Spearborn. The forest. Something triggered the Threxian audio sensors. Thousands of overlapping human voices, broadcast from hidden speakers, reciting historical war crimes in multiple languages, interspersed with laughter, marching music, and baby cries. It scrambled their neural sync. By the 7th hour, only 2 Spearborn were transmitting. One activated his emergency extraction beacon by slamming it against his forehead. The other's helmet feed showed him curled in a fetal position, whispering. They smiled while they killed us, they smiled. They were recovered. Technically, one without a leg, one without a mind. Velgren watched the footage in silence. He no longer saw savages. He saw something worse. Professionals pretending to be savages. Because what the humans were doing wasn't panic. It was designed. They were studying Threxian responses. Field testing adapted tech. Recording every outcome. Within a day. Sir, said Tellith, voice low, this can't be local militia. No way they reverse-engineered plasma rifles in hours. We're seeing custom mods, hacked neural circuits. One of them built a railgun out of a transmission tower and an electric grill. Velgren's jaw clenched. Then who are they? We've been combing through their comms. There's no trace in Earth's public networks. No official records. No national insignias. But one word keeps repeating. He brought up a screen. One glyph, spray-painted in red over the remains of a Threxian dropship. The Bastion. Velgrin stared. Is that a faction? A nation-state? We don't know. But they have the kind of infrastructure we'd expect from a spacefaring civilization. Just hidden, like they planned to stay invisible. Another pause. Sir, their encryption's bizarre. Half of it's outdated Earth code. Stuff from something called MySpace and nuclear submarines. The other half is post-quantum warping. Like a schizophrenic AI wrote it while drunk. Velgrin narrowed his eyes. They're layered. Disguised chaos. Teleth nodded. Like they've been building this under our nose for decades. Back on Virex Prime, the Threxian Council dismissed Velgrin's preliminary report. Too dramatic. Too alarmist. Cultural misinterpretation, they called it. One counselor even suggested Velgrin was experiencing terrestrial psychic resonance, a side effect of prolonged exposure to human media. The term was filed officially as combat-induced emotional bleed. That theory lasted until the footage leaked. A 12-minute video broadcast from Earth. A Threxian scout outpost, commandeered. Its walls reinforced with welded street signs and ship plating. Its weapon caches emptied. And its commanding officer duct-taped to a chair, wearing a t-shirt that read, "I went to Earth, and all I got was this PTSD." Then came the voiceover. To our honored guests, next time knock. It ended with the entire outpost being rigged to explode with reclaimed Dominion mining charges, just as a Threxian recovery drone approached. The explosion spelled out a crude human phrase in fire. Try harder. That got the Council's attention. 10 ships were deployed. High-class cruisers. Orbital suppression specialists. Commanded by someone other than Velgrin, just to make a point. Velgrin didn't argue. He just watched from the obedience as they arrived in Earth orbit. Ships that had decimated planets, that had quelled supernova cults, that once sterilized an entire species for disrespecting Threxian treaty fonts. And Earth didn't flinch. No surrender signals. No broadcast. Just radio silence. Until they turned the radio up. We're intercepting human comms, Teleth reported, fingers twitching across the console. Encrypted at first, but now they're... He paused. Velgrin turned. What? They're wide open, like they want us to hear. A beat, then a voice. Female. Cool. Almost bored. You want to dance with monsters? Come closer. We don't bite, unless you beg for it. Then came coordinates. A specific human city, marked on a digital overlay. Remote. Low population density. Minimal orbital defenses. Bait. The Council ordered a precision strike. No civilian loss. Just a clear message. Submit or burn. The Dreadnought Vindicator was selected. Its plasma beam could vaporize a square mile of hardened terrain in a single shot. The captain confirmed target lock. The beam fired. The city vanished. The Dominion cheered. For 30 minutes. Then the Vindicator went dark. No response. No ping. No distress signal. They sent a recon cruiser. It made it halfway before something slammed into it from high orbit, fast, small, and burning. Not a missile. A carrier pod. Full of humans. In exosuits. In space. Who the hell trains for 0G boarding rates? Velgrin snapped. But the footage was clear. They didn't just fight. They flowed through the cruiser. Room by room. System by system. One moved through a pressure-sealed corridor while casually whistling. Within 7 minutes, the ship was silent. Recovered footage showed one human walking past the onboard surveillance camera, pausing to whisper. More, please. Velgrin didn't brief high command. He just sent the video. The Council's official statement blamed a rogue weather phenomenon for the Vindicator's loss. But Velgrin knew. So did everyone paying attention. Earth wasn't defending itself. It was inviting escalation. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, the Bastion smiled. Because the next part wouldn't be a raid. It would be a lesson. The Dominion had long mastered warfare. They had perfected orbital suppression, planetary sterilization, and interstellar logistics. Their battle manuals were thicker than most planets' constitutions. Their ships ran on AI clusters older than Earth's continents. Their arrogance was not a flaw. It was policy, and none of it mattered anymore. Because Earth had stopped reacting like a planet under attack, and started behaving like a predator circling a wounded animal. After the catastrophic loss of the Vindicator and the boarding party bloodbath, Dominion High Command entered what they called a Phase Zeta diplomatic opportunity. Translation: send a peace delegation before we look like idiots. The vessel they chose was unarmed, ceremonial, white-gilded, and crewed by their most fluent humanologists, scholars who had once written dissertations on human emotional turbulence and cultural compensation rituals, what Earthlings called music festivals and sarcasm. Commodore Velgren watched them launch from the Obedience, lips drawn tight. "They're going to die," he muttered. His adjutant, Tellith, flicked nervously. "Surely not, sir. The humans may be unpredictable, but even savages honor parley." Velgren turned slowly. "You're thinking of pirates. These are humans. They'll accept your olive branch, then plant it in your chest cavity." The peace ship never touched down where it was supposed to. Its landing vectors were hijacked mid-descent, rerouted with shocking elegance, and gently guided into a snowy forest clearing in what Earth's database is called Siberia. Then the feed cut out. Dominion sensors scrambled to re-establish contact. Nothing. Until 47 minutes later, a live broadcast lit up every Dominion military feed across 4 sectors. 6 diplomats knelt in the snow, blindfolded, shivering. Behind them stood humans, 6 of them, dressed in mismatched gear. Some wore old Dominion armor, others civilian clothes with patches reading "Female Body Inspector" and "Guns don't kill people, I do." One even wore a Dominion commander's ceremonial cape. Backwards, 4 flare. A woman stepped forward. Calm, tactical vest, eyes like winter steel. "You came to talk," she said, pacing behind the hostages but not to listen. "So let's simplify this." She ripped a Dominion translator collar off one of the diplomats and held it to her mouth. "We are not a species you conquer." She moved to the next hostage. "We are not a species you monitor." Another step. "We are not your project." Then she pulled her sidearm and calmly executed the diplomat mid-sentence. No anger, no flourish, just efficient silence. The feed cut. 30 seconds later, a Dominion cargo pod was launched back into orbit. Inside were the severed remains of one diplomat, pieced together like a jigsaw puzzle. Etched in the man's breastplate, "This is mercy." Back on Virex Prime, the High Assembly finally lost its composure. Some demanded orbital cleansing. Others wanted mass retaliation. One counselor suggested building a containment sphere around Earth and sealing it forever like a cosmic trash bag. Velgren sat in the shadows of the strategy chamber, arms crossed. "Why are you still here?" one of the senior generals hissed. Velgren didn't answer. He just transmitted one image across the table. It was a freeze frame from the peace ship's hacked navigation display, scrawled in a corner in blood-red paint. "We know your crimes." The room fell silent. While the council debated which apocalyptic protocol to use, something far worse began to happen. Fear leaked. Not in Dominion brass, but in their allies. Smaller species, puppet governments, fringe world protectorates. They'd been watching the transmissions, too. And what they saw wasn't terror. It was liberation. Here was a species that wasn't just fighting back. It was exposing everything. One feed showed Dominion officers torturing prisoners. Another, slave camps from the Kicks, 5 mining moons. And the one that broke the galaxy? A video of Project Needlepoint, a Dominion genetic sterilization program targeting high chaos species. It had never been publicly acknowledged. Humans found it in 3 days. They aired on loop. No one knew how Earth did it. One theory: their Bastion was tapping into civilian networks via long-dormant Dominion spy nodes. Another: they'd hijacked abandoned relay satellites. A third, darker rumor: they'd cracked the Dominion's own command net, the encrypted backbone of military comms. Whichever was true, the result was the same. Every atrocity the Dominion had buried was now going viral. And still, Earth didn't send a fleet. They didn't even issue demands. They just broadcast. Then came the final blow. During a precautionary orbital strike, intended to disable Earth satellites, a single Dominion missile detonated a low-orbit EMP. Success. Total blackout. Earth's entire orbital grid went dark. for about 11 seconds. Then every single Dominion ship in Earth's orbit experienced a simultaneous system seizure. HUDs turned black, then flickered, then glowed red. We warned you, and the screaming began. Onboard AIs began to melt down. Auto turrets spun in circles. Engines overcorrected. Life support desynced. Some ships fired on each other before power could be cut. Velgren watched from the obedience, frozen. How are they doing this? Tella stammered, choking on static. They've infected our systems, another officer cried. They were in the comms. The realization hit Velgren like a gravity spike. This isn't a virus, he said. It's been there since first contact. What? Their first message. Their first data packet. Every time we intercepted, analyzed, or translated a signal, we let them in. Earth had weaponized their own curiosity, their arrogance. Every Dominion communication about Earth, every scanned human file, had carried a dormant code. Harmless, invisible, until activated. Activated by what? EMP. Earth let them disable their satellites, just to set off the trap. It was psychological, strategic, surgical. A war scalpel hidden in a handshake. With the orbital grid in chaos, Earth struck. Not with fleets, not with missiles, with pods. Again, each one small, fast, quiet, carrying 2 to 4 human soldiers in exo-rigs made of scavenged Dominion armor and duct tape. They boarded Dominion ships mid-meltdown. One footage showed a human stapling a Dominion officer's tongue to the bulkhead, whispering, "Show adults are talking now." In another, a Threxian ship's core was painted with the phrase, "Try again, this time with feeling." That night, Earth transmitted a message. Wideband, unencrypted, accessible to any species, any system, anywhere. It was a simple video. A soldier stood in the ruins of a Dominion vessel. A Dominion officer's helmet dangled from his belt. "You came to dominate. We came to remember." He leaned closer to the camera. "And we remember everything." The galaxy no longer whispered about Earth. It watched. Broadcasts of Dominion ships falling from orbit had gone viral across 3 arms of the galactic net. Mercenary hubs in the Alcerian belt rewound combat feeds like entertainment. Smuggler stations rewired their frequencies just to intercept human transmissions. Some tuned in for tactics. Most tuned in for the horror. What shocked them wasn't the violence. Every empire has its atrocities. The shock was how surgical it all was. Earth wasn't just fighting back. It was keeping score. The term the Bastion had started as graffiti spray-painted across the hulls of ruined Dominion scouts. Now it was a full-blown military signature. But where governments expected an army, what they got was a ghost network. Dominion analysts scrambled to identify leadership. They couldn't. No records. No known chain of command. The Bastion didn't broadcast identity. It broadcasted consequence. One report theorized it was a black-budget coalition from Earth's pre-collapse nations. Another claimed it was an AI-run resistance. A third, more hysterical version, suggested Earth itself had become sentient and was using its children as antibodies. But then came a recovered data fragment from a captured Bastion facility in South America, ripped from a shredded Dominion reconnaissance drone. A single speech, video, time-stamped years before the invasion. A woman stood before a crowd in a crumbling underground compound. Dark-skinned, mid-30s, scars across her jawline. Her voice steady. They wanted us to forget. But we remember. Behind her, a massive screen lit up. On it, Dominion emblems. Each one burning out, glitching, or slowly cracking apart. Below them, operation names. Not targets. Crimes. Project Star Drought. Protocol 7. The Razda Larator. Earth Containment Order 01. The woman raised her chin. We didn't form to conquer. We formed to survive memory. To hold it. To make it sharp. She stepped forward. We're the Bastion. We are not your mistake. Her name was Asha, 19. That number wasn't ceremonial. It was her asset ID from when the Dominion abducted her during the Earth stabilization campaign. They trained her in zero-G infiltration, then discarded her when she started questioning command decisions. She was left to die on a mining moon with a busted rebreather and an empty promise of repatriation. She didn't die. She escaped. And she didn't get angry. She got organized. Over the next decade, she hijacked one Dominion skirmisher, then another. Not to win battles, but to steal blueprints, prison logs, and access codes. She didn't recruit soldiers. She recruited the broken. The Bastion wasn't a military branch. It wasn't a government or a rebel faction. It was a mosaic of vengeance. Each cell was autonomous. No single base. No single leader. Just nodes in a memory web. Survivors. Disgraced soldiers. Exiled scientists. Hackers once labeled domestic threats. Prisoners traded off-world as debt laborers who returned with fire in their lungs. Every one of them had lost something to the Dominion. And every one of them had a long, meticulous list. Velgren reviewed the recovered files from the drone raid. Dozens of testimonials, not the kind polished for politicians. These were rage manifestos scrawled in blood and ash. They took my brother for genetic sampling. He came back in 3 jars. I was 9 when they sterilized our town. Told us it was for biostability. They erased our whole city from the map, then built a summer palace on the crater. The files weren't just for war. They were fuel. The Dominion didn't take it well. They never did. Shamed. Exposed. Mocked by every fringe world comedian with access to a microphone. So they responded the only way empires know how. Overkill. Operation Purity. A campaign to erase Earth completely. Fleet carriers by the dozens. Orbital siege platforms. Kinetic bombardment payloads that could crack tectonic plates. Every protocol once deemed too extreme for civilized application was authorized overnight. This wasn't war anymore. It was cleansing. Velgren stood on the bridge of the obedience as the offensive fleet positioned itself in high Earth orbit. Over 300 ships forming a net so vast it blocked out the moon. On the planet below, nothing. No launches. No transmissions. No threats. Just silence. The kind of silence you feel in your bones. One junior tactician whispered the question aloud. "They're waiting," Velgren said, more to himself than anyone else. For what? Then came the order: commence planetary suppression. The first wave wasn't meant to kill. It was designed to blind. High atmosphere EMPs, plasma static bursts, network disruptors. Dominion Doctrine 101. Gut the enemy's tech first. They fired. The sky glowed. Earth went dark. For 6 seconds. Then every Dominion ship's screen blinked. Red text. One line. "We warned you." And the system screamed. Alarms. Overloads. AIs melting into corrupted loops. Hulls venting atmosphere as energy grids went suicidal. Velgren clutched the railing as the obedience lurched sideways. "It's not a hack." Someone yelled. "It's a virus." "No," Velgren said softly. "It's a mirror." Every Dominion comm since first contact had carried pieces of it. A sleeper code. A digital cancer. Built from obsolete human code. Encrypted in sarcasm, memes, Cold War schematics, and badly translated old Earth sitcom subtitles. No one saw it, because no one took humans seriously. And that was the point. The Bastion counted on it. As Dominion ships fell from orbit, their own firepower turned against them. Engines reversed. Targeting systems went self-reflexive. Medical bays pumped sedatives into fully armed soldiers. Some ships detonated on their own. Others were gently boarded. Not by fleets, but by people. People in retrofitted exo-rigs stitched together from salvaged Dominion scrap, duct tape, and maybe a prayer to whatever Earth god used to be in charge of spite. On the surface, the Bastion made its move. The final operation. Codenamed Ashfall. Not a counterattack. A revelation. Every feed across the galaxy lit up. Bastion operatives beaming into interstellar networks. Footage of Dominion torture labs. Of erased towns. Of sterilization chambers. Not just recent crimes. History. Everything the Dominion ever did and buried. Broadcast in real time with geotags. At the center of it all, Asha 19 stood atop the shattered wreckage of a Dominion siege cruiser. Blood on her boots. Ash in her hair. Her voice was quiet. Calm. The voice of a woman who'd burned through rage and come out sharp on the other side. No more secrets. She pointed behind her. No more silence. A Dominion flag burned beside her. You taught us how to suffer. Now we teach you how it ends. Then she raised one fist to the sky. That's when a world cracked open. Hidden batteries. Buried defense platforms. Orbital guns fused into mountains. Subglacial missile nests disguised as tectonic monitoring stations. Some had been dormant for generations. Some were myths. Now they woke up. Earth didn't just defend itself. It declared intent. Half the fleet was gone by nightfall. The rest retreated, burning, bleeding, silent. Velgren didn't. He stayed. He stood at the viewport, watching Earth slowly spin beneath him. We made this, he whispered. We built the thing that will bury us. The war ended, not with a scream, not even with an explosion. It ended with a pause. The kind of pause you feel when your lungs forget how to breathe. When your heartbeat waits for permission. That was what the galaxy heard. Nothing. Not Earth's weapons. Not its diplomats. Not even its rage. The humans didn't gloat. They simply stopped responding. And somehow, that terrified the Dominion more than everything that had come before. Dominion fleets limped back into home systems like wounded animals. If wounded animals could suffer diplomatic collapse, AI fragmentation, and massive class action lawsuits. Ships half-melted. Commanders half-mad. Hulls sprayed with crude human messages like, "We read your history. It ends here. We do war recreationally. No refunds." Entire colonies refused to let the battered warships dock. Local governors, once proud Dominion vassals, now held their own tribunals. One by one, banners were pulled down in town squares. Dominion statues were dragged through the dirt. On Sector 11 Beta, a planetary governor was executed by his own guard. Cause of death: failure to detect sarcasm. Commodore Velgren, once the Dominion's precision blade, now sat in a small solar-powered hut. Not because he'd been exiled, because he'd been left. After the war, the Obedience crash-landed on a neutral moon. The crew was captured by civilians, refugees from the very camps Velgren once helped establish for population management. They didn't kill him. They made him look. They dragged him through the ruins of a Bastion memory archive. Let him read every record. Let him watch every feed. Let him realize the truth he'd been trained to ignore. That the thing he'd spent his career suppressing wasn't rebellion. It was recollection. They left him there. No guard. No chains. Just a monitor. Looping a single speech. Asha, 19, standing on the Dominion capital's shattered embassy steps, flanked by survivors and children. "You want to know what we are?" she said, "what we were built for. Now you know. Galactic powers expected Earth to rise. Expected parades. Military tribunals. Maybe a new human empire. Instead, Earth powered down. The Bastion shut off its orbital platforms. Its black ships returned to silent dry docks, hidden in the shadows of moons and mountains. No new edicts. No declarations of supremacy. The humans didn't install governors. They didn't redraw borders. They simply watched. Because now every system, every former Dominion colony, every second-rate empire that had benefited from oppression, they all knew someone was watching. Not a government. Not a law. A presence. Somewhere on the edges of the star charts, a single ship with no registry might appear. A brief sensor flicker. A flash of red glyphs in a Dominion dialect no one had used in centuries. Then silence again. The only thing left behind was a symbol. A broken chain, wrapped in flame. Not broadcasted. Not explained. Just painted. Carved into steel. Welded onto derelict comm stations. No species admitted to understanding it. But every species feared it. Because everyone knew what came next if you forgot. Academies began rewriting military doctrine. Entire courses were dedicated to human cognitive combat psychology. Phrases like tactical vengeance, indexing, and weaponized cultural trauma became standard vocabulary. A new phrase emerged in the whispers of military academies. Fighting Earth isn't a war. It's a posthumous decision. Young cadets asked their trainers if the Bastion was still out there. Trainers didn't answer. Because silence was safer. Somewhere in what used to be known as the Dominion's core worlds, a survivor of the original council stood before a burned archive. His palace was gone. His staff either defected or disappeared. The only thing left was a single data rod, sealed in an old Dominion encryption algorithm. It took him 3 hours to crack. Inside was a short clip, a human child, laughing, playing with what looked like a Dominion plasma bayonet repurposed as a swing set frame. The video ended with a glitch. One final line. "We don't need to rule you. We just need to outlast you." He cried, for the first time in his life. They didn't disappear. They spread, not as conquerors, but as guardians. They built silent listening posts in asteroid belts, established free fire warnings near disputed systems. Some helped refugee planets train their militias. Others simply sat in orbit above ex-slave worlds and watched. Not a threat, a promise. They didn't build an empire. They built a reputation, and it echoed across generations. Parents warned unruly children not with monsters or ghosts, but with stories of the humans who smile when they're hurt. Politicians told cautionary tales of what happens when you ignore the weak for too long. Beware the species that turns grief into doctrine, they said. Beware the ones who don't flinch. 10 days after the last Dominion ship fled Earth orbit, one final broadcast was transmitted. It originated from Geneva, or what was left of it. The former Dominion consulate had been turned into a memorial. Its walls were covered in names. Thousands. Millions. Every civilian who vanished. Every soldier discarded. Every prisoner numbered and forgotten. Asha, 19, stood beneath it. No podium. No weapon. Just truth. "We didn't ask for this." She gestured behind her at survivors, families, scientists, and field medics turned saboteurs. "We didn't want this." Her voice cracked slightly. "But you made sure the only way we'd survive was to learn how to kill better than you." She looked into the camera. "And now we know how." The screen went black, then faded in with a single line. "Let the galaxy rebuild. Without fear. Without you." The Bastion said nothing else. No treaties. No apologies. No parades. Just silence. The kind of silence that sounds like teeth being clenched. The kind of silence that remembers. And in that silence, the galaxy rebuilt. Trade resumed. Governments formed. Peace, they called it. But in the heart of every strategist, every empire, every regime that rose from the ashes, lingered a shadow. The knowledge that somewhere out there, Earth was watching. Not to punish. Not to control. To remember. And if the galaxy ever tried again, if it ever forgot the pain it caused, then Earth wouldn't send ambassadors. It wouldn't send warnings. It would send a smile.